Hello, everyone, and welcome to my presentation. I am Daniel Onwude, a computational food scientist, and today I'm going to introduce you to the concept of your virtual coaching assistant with regards to digital twinning and the time to pick up in the Coldtivate app. So basically, through the Coldtivate app, we're going to explore how digital twin and the time to pick up works, and also can help different stakeholders in the value chain of developing country or rather low and middle income country, help preserve their food better, right? So whether you're an expert in the supply chain or you're just curious about how your fresh produce stay fresh, this presentation will give you a clear and practical view of how digital technology is transforming the preservation of fruits and vegetables. Okay. Okay. Super. Um, so before I delve into the nitty-gritty of today's talk, let me first give an overview, or let me first define what a digital twin of fruits and vegetable is. So, digital twin is essentially a virtual replica of a product or a system that mirrors the key properties and behavior of that product in real life, right? So, usually, this twin is connected to the actual fruit through IoT-based temperature sensors or temperature and humidity sensors that allows it to respond just like the real fruit would under different storage or transport conditions. So basically, just think about it as a living digital copy of your product that evolves alongside, with the product. Great. So before also continuing or delving deep into digital twin work, I'm going to also talk about how time or what how we calculated the time to pick up in the Cultivate app. Okay. Now, as you all know, once fruits and vegetables are harvested, their quality start to decline, right? So by quality, I mean the properties that make the produce valuable to us. So such as the freshness, the taste, the texture, the appearance, and even the nutritional value, right? So at the moment of harvest, we can think of quality as, let's say, being 100%, right? But over time, that quality gradually decreases, eventually reaching a point where the fruit is no longer marketable or edible, right? So this is just to give you an idea as to what goes on to fresh produce or fresh fruits and vegetables once they are harvested. Now, one main factor driving this decline is temperature, right? If the temperature is too high, ripening can occur, right? And this ripening um, accelerates decay of the produce if it's not well managed. As you could see on your screen, on the example of senescence on the top right corner of your screen. Now, on the other hand, if the temperature is too low, that can also cause damages, right? Such as chili injury. For example, citrus or mango may develop black spots on the skin, which makes them less appealing and reduces their market value. So, what does this mean? What this means is we need to manage the temperature, during storage in order to find the right balance to slow down deterioration without causing damages, right? Now, a second key factor influencing the fruit quality is the relative humidity in the surrounding air or in the air around the produce. Here again, there is a trade-off, or we see a trade-off. Now, what is the trade-off? When the humidity is too high, moisture can condense on the fruit surface, creating the perfect environment for mold growth, right? As you can see at the top right corner of your screen. Now, on the other hand, if the humidity is too low, the fruit loses water to the air, which leads to dehydration or moisture loss and shriveling, like you could see in the passion fruit shown on your screen. So what does this mean? Just like the temperature, we also need to maintain the right balance of humidity in order to slow down quality loss and keep the fruit fresh as long as possible. Now, a third important parameter that also affects the quality of produce during storage is the gas concentration in the storage environment. So, especially oxygen and ethylene. Now, with oxygen, there is again a trade-off, right? Just like we saw in temperature and humidity. So at normal atmospheric levels, fruit respire quickly, which speeds up ripening and decay. But if the oxygen level drops too low, the fruit cannot carry out its normal metabolic processes, and this can lead to internal disorder, like the browning you can see in the example on your screen, right? Now, another key gas is ethylene, which is a natural plant hormone that is produced by the fruit itself during ripening. But ethylene acts like a signal that tells the fruit to ripen faster or not. So if there is too much ethylene built up rather in the storage, then you would have accelerated ripening across the batch of produce that are being stored. So again, managing these gases is just as critical as controlling temperature and humidity when it comes to keeping fruit fresh for long. Great. Now, also let's look at the cold storage itself. Now, in the digital twin currently implemented in the Coldtivate app, we focus primarily on temperature during cold storage, right? And that's because temperature is the single most influential factor affecting fruit quality after harvest. So, by placing produce in a cold room and lowering the temperature, we can already slow down respiration, delay ripening, and significantly extend the shelf life of the produce. So this is why cold storage is such a critical part of the supply chain and why our digital twin is designed to closely track and simulate temperature effects during cold storage. Now, looking at the slide on your screen, you could see an example of a cold room. In this cold room, we can place sensors to measure the air temperature, but the real challenge is often understanding what this means for the product inside, right? So if you have many different commodities stored together, arriving at different times, it becomes very difficult to know the actual quality status of each fruit or each vegetables. So basically, in other words, measuring room temperature alone doesn't directly tell us what is happening inside the produce itself. And that's why exactly we need a virtual replica of the produce in the cold room in order to understand really what goes on inside the cold room. Okay, so this is where Coldtivate app uses the concept of digital twin. So the digital twin, as I said earlier, is a virtual model of the fruit that behaves just like the real one because it continuously updates, or rather, it is continuously updated with sensor data from the cold room. So basically, when the sensor measures temperature, uh, that data is fed into the app, and then the digital fruit respond as if it were the actual fruit. So this allows us to see the quality evolution over time. Okay, so let's look at this. Now, right after harvest, the quality starts often at 100%, right? But this also depends on the temperature condition and the crop type because each fruit behaves in a different way. So the quality decreases at different rates, right? So a sudden spike, for instance, will cause a much sharper drop in quality than a well-controlled environment. So you could see the quality could decrease from 100% to 90 to 80 to 45 and then to 20%, right? So this is what typically goes on with our fresh produce once they are plucked from the tree. So Basically, the digital twins provides two key outputs. One, the current quality of the produce, so in terms of freshness, spoilage, appearance, and so on and so forth. And then the time to pick up, what we call TTP, which tells us how long the fruit can remain in storage before it should be sold or consumed. Okay, great. Now let's look at the next slide. Um, And I would quickly show or talk about more on the time to pick up in this slide. Now, you could look at the slide, you could see that the slide illustrates already how the time to pick up works in practice, right? So, the time to pick up represents basically the storage life of a produce. So, how many days you can still keep your products in the cold room before they can be taken to the market or consumed. Note that you can also take the produce to the market, or you can consume them at any time during storage before the actual time to pick up. Okay. Anyways, once the produce reaches the market, we assume there is still about half a day of shelf life left for selling, before the quality drops too much. Now, for example, if the app predicts a time to pick up of 2 days, that means you can safely leave your produce in the cold storage for 2 more days. Now, after that, you should move it to the market where you still have at least up to a day to sell it before you risk, before the product being, have the risk of being spoiled. So this is very important for you to understand. Great. Now, before we move on, let me share a few comments on how the app calculates the time to pick up, right? So, first, it uses the expected temperature in the room, what we call the set temperature. Now, what does this mean? Now, if a sensor is installed, so for example, in the app right now, we have different sensors installed, such as the Figo sensors, the UB board, the Victron, the EcoZen. Now, once these sensors are installed in the code room, the app takes the average of the last 6 hours of measurement, right? So the sensor tracks the temperature in the cold room. Now, the app then take the average of these last 6 hours of this temperature. And the reason is because the temperature is often not constant. So it fluctuates over time. So the app takes the average and then uses average to fit the digital twin model and then makes the prediction, right? So with Ecozen system for instance, or sensor for instance, the system would use a set temperature directly and then use this to then make the prediction. And then if your room have no sensor, if there is no sensor available whatsoever, then the app would simply ask the user, which could also be the operator or the cold chain manager, sorry, the code room manager or the owner to set to manually put the set temperature. So basically, the temperature of the room. So the operator could assume the temperature of the room when the products are inside. So this is basically what the set temperature is about. Now, secondly, we also assume an external constant temperature that we use to make this calculation of the time to pick up. Now, what does this mean? Right. So for the shelf life, we try to kind of simplify the calculation process for the app. So we assume that the produce will be exposed to the constant external temperature of 30 degrees Celsius, right? Of course, in reality, this is not true because the outside temperature vary. The outside temperature vary across different months, different days, different locations, right? So, but just to simplify the process, we assume 30 degrees Celsius for the external temperature. Okay, just to note that this external temperature is needed to calculate the shelf life, or rather the time to pick up. Okay, great. Now let's move to the next slide. Now this slide shows how the digital twin and time to pick up actually looks in the Coldtivate app. Now on your screen now, you get to see the dashboard where each commodity is listed along with their current status. For example, you see, sorry, I'm trying to point, my pointer is not working. Okay. So for example, you see avocado, potato, guava, and okra. Each has its own countdown for time to pick up, right? Shown in days. The color coding basically helps us to quickly spot which product needs urgent attention. Now, on your right, you see the detailed view of a specific crop. So in this case, strawberries. Now here the app shows the quality level, the number of crates, the weight, and most importantly, the predicted time to pick up. So for example, it indicates that the strawberry should be picked up within 3 days, right? So in practice, the app translates digital twin and sensor data into clear, actionable information that farmers, traders, and cold store operators can use to make better informed decisions. Okay, now I'm going to talk a bit about the initial quality at check-in. As mentioned earlier, when a crop is freshly harvested from the orchard, we consider its quality to be 100%, right? But this is a bit of an over-assumption, I would say, uh, because there are a lot of things that could happen, right? To the fruits, even during harvest, right? So when we talk about quality, what do we mean? So we mean the attributes that makes the fruit valuable, such as freshness, taste, appearance, texture, and even the nutritional content. So just to note again clearly that not all the cases for all the fruits that the quality would be 100% because we have different things that could affect the initial quality, such as pre-harvest variability, harvest timing, pest, and even ripeness level. Okay. Um, Anyways, before the produce arrives in the store in the cold room, there are usually hours or even days of transport and handling. The farmer or trader could even store, the produce in the house for a day or two before taking them in the cold room. So all these mean that once the produce arrive at the cold room, the initial quality cannot be 100%. So what we try to do is to give a realistic estimate of what the initial quality is. So basically, you know, uh, we ask the question like, when is the product harvested? So that each time the user check in a crop in the Coldtivate app, and we could have different options, such as was it harvested today? Was it harvested yesterday? Was it harvested 2 days ago? So this information is then used to calculate how much quality was already lost during transportation or handling before entering the cold room, right? So in the current version of the Coldtivate app, the calculation assumes an environmental temperature of 30 degrees Celsius, as I already highlighted earlier. But in the future, this will be refined using geolocation and even actual outside temperature of your location. Great. So for Ecosan Code Room, the system uses a set temperature that you enter into the application. So now, if no sensor is installed, the app will simply ask you to enter the temperature manually. So as I said earlier, by combining the harvest time with temperature data, the app can then give a much more accurate estimation of the fruit's initial quality when it checks into storage. Okay. Now, looking at, oh, sorry, I think I went back. Yeah, so additional notes. Before wrapping up, here are some few additional notes and reminders I would like to emphasize. So first, um, correct product handling is essential to minimize quality loss. Now, what does this mean? This means using proper packaging, handling produce gently to avoid bruises and placing it into cold room as quickly as possible, right? Now, because bruises and damage not only reduce quality directly, but could also increase the risk of mold infection or rather pest infestation, right? Um, Secondly, we recommend accurate room temperature measurements because these are very important because since these values feed directly into the digital twin, then it becomes very important that we get an accurate temperature reading as much as possible. Ideally, the measurement should be continuous. If there are no data points, the twin cannot make a prediction. That's why it's important to regularly check the battery of the sensors for those that uses, for instance, UV bot sensor, and to ensure that they are placed correctly in the room. For this, you can refer to the sensor placement guideline that we already included in the onboarding kit. Okay. And then thirdly, you should always carry out proper checking of the crops. Now, what does this mean? Because each time produce enters the cold room, you should make sure it is logged in the Coldtivate app. So you include things like the number of days since they were harvested and so on and so forth. Because being accurate and honest here is key for you to get a very good information or good prediction that would then drive the decision you take with regards to when and how you want to sell your produce. And then fourthly, or rather finally, a note on how carefully you should interpret the time to pick up values on the app, because this is very important, right? Because storage life is strongly dependent on temperature. So if the set temperature in the cold room changes, then the time to pick up will also change. For example, if you increase the temperature from 5 degrees Celsius to 10 degrees Celsius to accommodate for a new product, then the model will show shorter storage time because produce deteriorate faster at higher temperature. So remember that the app currently assumes that once product leaves the cold room, it still has about 1 day of shelf life at 30 degrees Celsius. So this is a simplification, as I said earlier, since real outdoor conditions can vary, from location to location and also from month to month. So, but this gives us a useful baseline to work with, right? So we need to also remember that fruits and vegetables are living biological products. Why is that important? Because there is always a natural variability. So even within the same box, even within the same room, some fruit may last longer than the others, right? So the digital twin, therefore, provides an average estimate of time to pick up for the batch and not the exact value for each single fruit in a basket. So it's good that we emphasize this, okay? And then finally, ripening process are not yet explicitly modeled in this version of the app. So the focus is mainly on storage life under different temperature conditions. Great. Now, let's look at some of the fruits and vegetables that we've implemented in the Coldtivate app. We have implemented digital twin for 26 crops in the app, including banana, apple, potato, tomato, mango, and so on and so forth. Right. So please test this out and also give us give us a feedback if you can. Great. And now, finally, on your screen, you get to see the knowledge hub and the operator manual. So in this Coldtivate app, we also included the knowledge hub where you can have a full list of all the crops that have been implemented with the optimal temperature and expected shelf life or storage life. And also an operator manual containing more information on some guidelines, best practices, how to maintain your cold room, time to pick up, storing multi-commodity produce at the same time, and so on and so forth. All these informations are available in the onboarding kit as well. Great. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for listening to this video. Thank you so much for watching this video. And please feel free to check our FAQ if you have more questions. And please also give us feedback. Thank you so much for your attention.